I was in ceremony this morning with my cacao, and I have at my altar this picture of Mary Magdalene and Yeshua in this really beautiful embrace. And I felt into that inner union that I feel so deeply anchored within myself of my inner king and queen, and the way in which my masculine really holds my feminine. And so for me, being a sovereign, embodied queen is somebody who is, I'm open to life. My heart is open, and I'm fully grounded and anchored within who I am, my authentic self, my truth, where I don't feel the need for somebody to come in and complete me, to make me whole. I feel this wholeness within for the first time ever in my life.
I
Yeah.
love that.
And it feels so good. I get chills just talking about it. And I had a good gratitude sob this morning. Felt real nice.
I love that.
Yeah, there's I've shared this before on a previous show or episode, but there's a bell hooks quote that I love that you just kind of alluded to, and a lot of society, a lot of us are raised by entertainment society, until we start to really kind of think for ourselves or separate or find a community, and one of those ideas that kind of has been filtered into romanticism, whether it's romantic comedies, movies, television, yada, 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 is like, you complete me. I'm looking for that person to blah, blah, right? And Bell Hooks had this quote from the 70s, and Bell Hooks was a relationship counselor from, back in the 60s, 70s, maybe early 80s. But she had this quote that was basically like, stop looking for somebody to complete you and look for somebody to hold the space so you can complete yourself. Right, and it's like an anchor, right? Let me find an anchor that I can know and I'll check in with. But I don't need you to make me happy, but I
Exactly.
need to know that somebody's there so that
Mm-hmm.
I can go off and do my thing and know that there's something anchoring life back here, right? And
Yeah.
I love that kind of visual, that the way that makes me feel. Because it's not like you're looking for a puzzle piece or like you're a perfect match or whatever it is. We had Jared and Lori on a couple months ago, and they were talking about the soul partnership, right? And so it just alludes to that idea that it's not like I'm looking for a person to complete me, to help me, to save me. I've got it all within me, and I just need somebody to help hold this while I can figure me out, right?
Yeah. And the turn
Exactly.
taking
Yeah,
too.
I love that because I am calling in devotional partnership.
Mm.
And that's something that I'm actively open to right now. And it is about, yeah, I'm not looking for somebody to fix me or completely. I'm looking for that anchor
Yeah.
to elevate
Yeah.
each other.
Yeah. I love that. And I saw this image yesterday online, and it was two people in partnership taking times. There was, a couple different slides, and one was a picture of her with a watering can and watering the flowers that were growing from the crown of his head. And then the next slide was him with the watering can watering her flowers growing from the crown of
No.
her head.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's the thing. And then sometimes nobody's watering anything and we're all just
Mm.
holding on.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
That's
we're
where we
like,
come in and we hold ourselves, and that
yeah,
where that foundation of sovereignty is so important because we're human. We're not going to show up perfectly. We're going to need time to ourselves to
totally.
not be able to hold space at all. And maybe that happens at the same time where we both need space to hold ourselves. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, that's why it feels so important.
Yeah. Yeah, Brene Brown has this beautiful idea for a check-in with her husband that she talks about. I don't have a spouse or partner that I can do that with, and when I did not. So I can't say that I've done this and it works, but it sounds beautiful on paper, and she speaks very highly of it. But she sits down with her husband every morning over coffee and says, "Okay," they do a check-in. Like, let's say I got 70% of me today, right?
Mm.
And then my partner across is, okay, I got 90%. I'm feeling good today. It's like, cool. All right. So you're going to make up that extra 20 that I don't have. So you might carry the stick a little bit longer than me. You might have a little bit more responsibilities than me, and then vice versa tomorrow, right? Tomorrow I might wake up feeling 90 and you're 40, right? And you're like, cool. All right. I got you today. I'm going to hold this down while you just, focus on yourself for a little bit,
And then you
I
both
love
wake up
that.
one day and you're both like, I got 10%. And we're like, we call grandma.
Totally.
Or
Yep.
like, you call in the community, you turn
Exactly.
inward. Yeah. I want to go back to something that you had shared when we were talking about like what we would discuss here, I want to go back to your younger years and talk more openly about some of the hardships that you faced that brought you through to where you are. So take us back to like young woman Shalise, or Shalima, as I like to refer to
Yeah,
you.
Shalima, young baby girl. I love that because I feel like that's really where my story begins when I started to feel this sensual, womanhood. I've always been a very sensual being, and it wasn't until the last, 4 years that I've really accepted that and integrated that. That's that part of me. And I remember back when that first started to come online and the power, the intoxicating power of being able to lure. And I was kind of an ugly duckling before, like it's when I was younger, I remember in middle school having crushes and the boys never liked me. I was, the teeth, the hair, it was just, I just wasn't very pretty. And then I think it was like my freshman year of high school, I started to get prettier after braces and knowing how to do my hair and the clothes and to be able that intoxicating luring of men in and that feeling of desire, finally feeling that. I've been a lover girl since I was like first grade
Yeah.
and always felt this like deep pain of having a crush and that crush not liking me back and then all of a sudden, ooh, they're all about me.
Yeah.
And that was when I started opening my body and just yeah, opening to men who didn't honor me, just to feel that the the desire to fill that wound.
Yeah.
Well, like
Being
you said, it's
wanted.
intoxicating, going
Yeah.
from feeling othered in whatever way to feeling enticed and to be alluring and to, the it's intoxicating is a beautiful word for it because we don't really know how powerful intoxicants are until we try them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when we try intoxicants in whatever fashion, right? And this is alluring intoxicants, not like a substance intoxicants like a alcohol or cocaine or something like that, right? A drug. but
Love those.
but actually as strong if not stronger than because it's totally within
Mm-hmm.
us. It's not external, it's always here, right? I can wear something to feel more alluring. I could do something to my demeanor to be more alluring. I don't have to change my physiology and have a hangover tomorrow, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of intoxicating when this thing that I'm born with is now in like bringing in attention that I'm not used to. And sometimes, actually, not sometimes, the most important people in my life that have had some kind of impact have gone back from something that has pulled them in, that intoxicant that's pulled them in. So sometimes we got to taste that shit, right? We gotta fall
Mm-hmm.
victim to it to understand how hard it is to say no. So we get a little empathy for the people that can't say no right now. And then we find the real strength that's within us so we can actually move forward as a human because we see the opportunity that we have to step into that intoxicating behavior, but we reel it back into a place that's more divine within us, within our own boundaries and our parameters that still might be outside of somebody else's, but we're respecting ourselves now because we've maybe pushed it a little far that we know how to come back and be like, oh, this boundary feels better to me, right? It's
Mm.
still very beautiful and very erotic, but it's still like I know the boundaries now that lie within it. Right?
Yeah. Well, and like anything, there's the trial and error phases
Yeah,
of
totally.
walking through and relating. The wild thing that I love about intimacy is the incredible cocktail that's released within our systems, right? And I know we've talked on other episodes about eroticism. Like, I'm not just talking about fucking. I'm not just talking about love making. I'm talking about the relationship that I get to experience when I'm looking at all these beautiful blossoms that are coming out in nature right now. This exchange. And what I hear Shalise talking about is like, as a young woman, going from unseen to seen, and then using the body to essentially amplify that experience with another person. So after opening your body and connecting with these young men and having that exchange, what did that feel like? Because I know for me, like what that was like during that chapter of my life. What would you say, speaking from her mouth and her eyes at that time, not the graduated version, but like, young women that are getting attention and experiencing, I wouldn't even, for me, I won't call it intimacy. You can call it what it was for you at that time. But for me, it was like feeling pleasure through physical connection at that time in my life. Like, I'm curious what you remember the most during that time.
Mhm. Yeah, what's coming up for me is this sadness,
Mm,
this deep sadness, this longing for, the lover girl in me was longing for a relationship. And I would just continuously give my body to these men who didn't show me an ounce that they were worthy of receiving me. And then they would discard me. And I'm like, well, it's just this continuous longing for a relationship and not finding that. And so my standards continued to lower and lower until, I mean, yeah, until recently.
yeah. So then
Yeah.
where did you go from there? Like what was the next phase of life? And that, like, how old are you when you're saying that this was that chapter?
It was about 16 to 18 where I really felt that deep longing, and there was a lot of numbing that happened. There was a lot of alcohol abuse, drug use. I was putting myself in situations where I mean, honestly, I feel so divinely protected. I should have been dead or in jail, with the situations that I put myself in, and the numbing that took place from that sadness, that hole that I felt within me that I couldn't fill with myself. And it wasn't until I uh, I got pregnant,
Mm,
that things really shifted.
yeah.
That's really interesting because so you were kind of alluding to this disembodied feeling, right? You're just kind of out there trying to appease something in your head, but not really understanding the men that you're with and like the reciprocity of that, which is really okay. So that's a horrible story. Thank you for sharing that. It's so interesting that you just said that changed, that disembodied idea changed when you became embodied with another body.
Mm,
And that's
Hmm.
really interesting because like we don't know where the gifts come in life, right? Where the opportunities come in life. And some people could think that like a pregnancy could be like, oh my God, this is, I don't know what to do with life. I got, my fiance and I had a baby at 23, right? So very, very child. I was a very, very young child when I had a baby, right? And I did not feel embodied. I was terrified.
mhm,
So it's beautiful to feel like that arc of your story of I'm not feeling with myself. I'm feeling these energies that I want to explore. I don't know how to do it. And so I all of a sudden here's this opportunity, embodiment through the embodiment of somebody else.
mm.
That's amazing. That's such a
Yeah.
beautiful. Whether the pregnancy ended up going the full term or not, that's just it's such an interesting kind of like.
Yes, he's a beautiful young man now.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, he'll be 16 next month, and just to kind of clarify, I actually still felt deeply disembodied until
mm,
about 5 years ago,
okay,
Mhm.
after a failed marriage and my spiritual awakening and a stint as an escort.
Yeah.
But it was the pregnancy that altered my life course, where I was going in a direction where if I continued as I was, I would have been dead. So I feel that my son, he has saved my life in more ways in more times than I can count throughout his 16 years.
Mm.
Yeah, so I'm very, very grateful for that experience.
that's beautiful. In your journey, when did you start to feel or notice that you were feeling disembodied? It's something that you don't really know until you know.
Yeah, yeah, it was After it was during my time as an escort, I was an escort for about a year after my marriage. I went through a pretty big spiritual awakening where I quit my job I was an assistant branch manager at a credit union and was waking up every morning with like just dry heaving with anxiety. It was like I couldn't go in anymore. And so I just quit and went to massage school. My sister was like, I feel like you need to be a yoga teacher or a massage therapist. And I was like, oh, okay, I pick massage. And
Yeah.
I just like went into it. And after massage school, I was like, I was still on the apps. I was very, well, I'll go back, within my marriage, I felt very constricted, very trapped. He was very possessive and jealous, and I couldn't have guy friends. And so after the marriage, I went back to my very promiscuous ways of being and was just sleeping with random men that I would meet on the dating apps. And so after realizing, wow, I don't want to massage bodies for 40 hours a week to make the kind of money that I want to make. And I'm already sleeping with these random men, so why don't I just charge for it?
Right.
And so went down that path and was smoking a lot of weed, getting high, orgasming with these men. And at the time had no idea that as I was orgasming, I was taking on all of their shit. My womb was just like completely open. And within the advertising of my services, I found tantra. And as soon as I found tantra, I was like, that's my path. And started studying, practicing, and it took me about 6 months of studying and practicing and being like, okay, this is something that I feel really called to. I was very hesitant. And what I know now was because that path, the tantric path, turned me inside out.
Yeah.
And yeah, it took a while to dive into that portal. But once I did, everything shifted.
Welcome, love. If you're feeling the pull to remember your power, soften your body, and return to your truth, I invite you into my world of healing arts and transformational coaching. I'm Awa Wild, intuitive guide, energy medicine woman, and creator of Sensuous Revival Healing Arts. I help individuals and couples release old patterns, dissolve shame, reconnect with pleasure, and rise into a more liberated life. Through sacred pelvic healing, somatic practices, intuitive body talk, and emotional integration, you'll learn to listen to your body, trust your intuition, and create relationships that feel nourishing and aligned. Whether you work with me one-on-one, join a retreat, or step into my online program, you'll receive an experience of deep presence, compassionate guidance, and practices that create lasting change. If your soul is ready for more freedom, more pleasure, and deeper truth, I'm here. Learn more at sensuousrevival.com or reach out directly to begin your journey.
Can you talk a little bit about, I'm very clear on the difference between eroticism and tantra, and how to use sexual energies in those beautiful, positive ways. But for some of our maybe listeners that might not understand, like how do you find a difference between like eroticism and tantra work? Because to maybe the laissez-faire person, they could look at it and be like, it's sex and it's the same thing to me, right? And so, but again, there's a very big difference. So for you, how did that land with you, and the difference of going from an escort to understanding this tantric understanding, that perspective shift?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think people there's a big misunderstanding around tantra. I think people think it's more Kama Sutra
Right.
Yep.
and it's all about sex, which it's one aspect of it, but to me tantra is finding enlightenment through the body and bringing loving awareness to the entire human experience and finding the sacred in everything.
Yeah, the body is a tool.
The body is the vessel. The body is the temple through which we find the divinity within the eroticism.
Yeah. It's so interesting. A lot of people don't know that tantra is a spiritual practice, right? It's like Christianity, and there's a lot of arguments online, which I think are valid, that a lot of sex workers use the word tantra in their advertisement because it's catchy, because it's
Yep.
trendy, because people think, oh, if you practice tantra, I'm going to learn how to stand on my head and orgasm for 10 minutes. Like it's this like almost cartoon like thing that's happened. And it's rather sad because
Yeah.
I think for me and my relationship to tantra, it's the thing that's been most true for me my entire life without knowing what it was called. And I've studied a lot of different spiritual paths and practices that dismiss the value of the body or don't see it as real. And that put me in a lot of conflict, which continued to perpetuate my body's sickness. And the deeper I got into the study of Tantra, which for me is primarily through the path of Shiva and Shakti, which I hear you talking about Mary Magdalene and Yeshua, right? So I'll just say it, my viewpoint, same, just different lineages. And so to be able to understand how eros or eroticism plays a part in Tantra because it's a part of human life and spiritual expression and expansion, but they are not the same. And there are lots of different ways of kind of dissecting it to make it more digestible or palpable for people as they're learning. But there's different deities that represent eros, whether that's, in American culture, we refer to it as Cupid, right? And I just studied him last year and I'm forgetting the name of, we studied Kamadev and we studied 2 every month this last year, the different deities representing Shiva and Shakti. And there is a Hindu god that represents Cupid, essentially.
Okay.
And this deity essentially shot Shiva with the arrow,
Yep.
which then created this ripple effect of like love and destruction. So there's so many different stories, but I think the thing that I would like listeners to be able to take away is that Tantra isn't about sex.
Yeah. That Shiva story I love. Just gonna bookend that real quick. So Shiva was meditating, and an incarnation of Parvati, his consort throughout the eons, was dancing in front of him and was trying to get his attention. And I can't remember the god's name either, but the Cupid decided to shoot Shiva with an arrow while he's in meditation, right? And so fucking Shiva, I love stories about Shiva. He's like a stoner god, right? He's gonna go meditate in the mountain Kailash, and then wake up whenever he needs to, and he smells like hemp and all this shit, right? So Shiva's like meditating with his tiger robe on and all this shit, and then here's Parvati version dancing in front of him, and so Hindu's Cupid shoots Shiva. Shiva feels the arrow. Kamala Mika wakes up because he got shot and looks at Cupid and is like, fuck you, and basically incinerates Kalamika, and then goes and has sex with Parvati. He's like, oh, hey.
Yep.
Hey, now that I'm awake, I see this person in front of me, And so it all worked, but Shiva had to do Shiva type shit first and destroy the person that woke him up.
Well, destroy, but turn them actually into an invisible force, which is what we refer to as eros.
Right.
This invisible force that makes us have this erotic lure or longing for the quote unquote other, which is ourself. So I want to get into some of the harder times and part of your story, what really brought you to your knees? Where in life was it the hardest, and what in your life was happening that you... Because I have my own story, which is why I want to ask some of these questions, right? I was an exotic dancer as a young woman. I was definitely using my body as a way to falsify a sense of love and connection. Also abused drugs and alcohol, right? So there's a huge similarity. And the pregnancy of my son is exactly the hugest turning point in my life. So we have so much in common in that area. I want to hear about your experience, or maybe the timeline in which life was really challenging, And were there like threads of light that kept you going? What were the common themes that you saw within yourself and the people that you were relating to? Like, I want to talk more about that part.
Hmm. Yeah, what's coming to mind is probably the ending of my marriage, and the months leading up to that, where I was on probably 4 or 5 different pharmaceuticals for anxiety, depression, as well as drinking every night, taking Ambien, severely numbing in this relationship, and not knowing how to get out
Mm.
of it. Yeah, and the dissolution of that and how I got out.
Mm.
Mm, that brought me to my knees, and I was many months of severe anxiety and fear of how to take care of myself, how to
Mm.
provide for myself. Um,
Do you mean financially speaking?
Financially, and not having, I mean, so my son's father, we met when my son was about 2
Mm.
and got married when he was um, like 2.5, almost 3, is when we got engaged, and he ended up adopting him.
Mm.
And so, kind of, very vulnerably, I'll share that part of the reason why I got into that relationship was I needed a father for my son.
Yeah.
And he has filled that role beautifully. He's always treated him as his own. Even now, my son lives with him full time in Texas, and I just see him on breaks, and he completely takes care of him financially and emotionally, and he's thriving
Yeah.
over there. And so to lose that, it's like it really upended my world of like, where do I go from here?
Mm.
Um, it was a And then the spiritual awakening came, and it was like, who the fuck am I? Like, what am I doing? And it was through massage school that I got off of all of the pharmaceuticals and started using natural remedies for anxiety and depression and heartburn. And um yeah, and then it was around towards the end of my escort stint that I started really discovering Mother Mary and Yeshua again from the lens of spirituality rather than religion, as my ex-husband was very Christian, and um yeah, there's many layers in here. I'm trying to like
Yeah.
go back to your questions. I might be getting lost in the weeds.
No,
No,
you're
it's
good. Well,
okay.
well, how does Yeshua and Mary Magdalene work into it for you? Because there's a lot of people that aren't religious don't know like the full stories of Mary Magdalene outside of the rumors that she was a whore or something like that, right? Which is
Yeah.
very, very judgmental, you know. So, yeah, what kind of drew you to those two as representations of what you were going through at that time?
Yeah, so I felt very Christian myself when I was in my marriage, and it wasn't until I found this crystal at the bank, and I believe this rose quartz crystal kind of activated something within me, and I ended up bringing some crystals home. And my husband at the time, he basically accused me of witchcraft and like freaked out. And I was like, wait, where in the Bible does it say I can't have fucking crystals in my house? And I just dove deep into why, and I just started questioning everything, and I
Mm.
completely turned my back on religion. I was like, this is fucking bullshit. I'm not going to buy into anything that perpetuates fear, shame, guilt. That just doesn't feel good in my heart.
Yeah.
And so it was, I did the end of 2019, I went up to Mount Shasta, and there I went to a retreat and did my first plant medicine ceremony it was like a Mayan ayahuasca called Tepescuete. And I had a connection with a woman there. She had these oracle cards that were Mother Mary oracle cards, and she pulled a card for me, and she mentioned that Mother Mary, Yeshua, and Archangel Michael were very strong and present in my energy field. And I was like, wow, like that really sparked something within me. I was still escorting. I was still kind of exploring tantra, but wasn't connected to my heart. Was still pretty disembodied. And got those Mother Mary oracle cards. That was my first oracle deck, and went home, integrated this medicine ceremony, and that really shifted. And I changed my name. My escort name was Shay Rose, and so the rose has always kind of been this symbol for me, like subconsciously. And after working with Mother Mary, came in very clear to change my name to Scarlet Rose. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. And I didn't realize until way later that the red rose is this symbol of the feminine, the divine feminine. And yeah, I think over the years, I started cultivating this connection with primarily Mother Mary and Yeshua. And through my tantric work, it was basically tantric massage. It was like a glorified sensual massage, that I called tantra for the first like year and a half. So I was one of those people who used that term, right, to lure them in. And but as tantra continued to turn me inside out, and I continued to do the work, was when I really discovered that this was actually an innate remembrance that was awakening within me of how to be with erotic energy in a sacred way, and
Yes.
how to help people come back to their body, to their heart, as I was continuing to. And so Mother Mary, or Mary Magdalene and Yeshua, yeah, Mary Magdalene is portrayed as a whore in the Bible because, how do I say this? That's what it was. Oh, I don't know how to say this.
It was what they used to help support their story.
To help support their story, to keep women disembodied and disconnected from their power, because we are so fucking powerful when we're connected to our wombs
Yeah.
and our hearts. And Mary Magdalene was this key figure in Yeshua's ascension, in his role as a way shower,
Yeah.
in anchoring and bringing in the Christ consciousness to the planet. And it was through their tantric union that really helped him to elevate his, in Egyptian terms, they call it the Ka body, which is the light body, which helped him to to die to his physical body, but stay spiritually alive.
Yes. So
I don't know if
beautifully
I
said.
feel like I might be butchering.
No, it's,
Yeah.
yeah, I love I just love the time that you take to be really thoughtful about what it is that you're saying. And for me, it's clear, maybe for people who don't have a relationship to this story or these concepts, it may be a little bit more difficult, but that's what Google's for. Or you can reach out to us and we can help you. As you talk about the experience with your own self, and you're going to Mount Shasta, you're working with medicine, you're getting these hits and signals through cards and meeting people along the way. Meanwhile, you're still maybe not feeling in your body yet and escorting. What experiences do you feel like you had experiences with these clients that you're seeing that supported your evolution, and what was happening for them and what was happening for you?
Mm. Yeah, what I noticed within escorting is that money was a driving factor. I was moving through some deep scarcity wounds, and it was actually very traumatic. or me being an escort, because I said yes to men who my body, I could already start to feel, especially the more that I started working with Mother Mary, I really felt my body's intuition turn on where I was a no and I said yes anyways. And that experience of receiving that man into me was traumatic. And so I've done a lot of womb healing since then. But when I started, I will never forget my very first tantric massage. And I was so nervous. I was so fucking nervous. I took this course online on how to do lingam massage, and so I had all these different moves, and I just did it.
Mm-hmm.
And the experience that this man had, I'll never forget how impactful it was for me. The way that he was able to feel this energy flow throughout his body, and hmm, that was when I realized that there is this and this wisdom, this innate intelligence within me that I am tapping into that is outside of logical knowing.
Mm. Yeah. For anybody
And
who's
over
listening
time, what I
to,
realized, what was that?
I was going to say for anybody who's listening, lingam is another word for penis.
Yeah. What I realized over time was this energy that I was activating within these men is potent.
Mm.
And if they don't have the foundational tools to be able to work with what this is awakening within them, whether it's wounding or shadows or um, just clarity, insight, it was actually a disservice to them. And so over time, I got more and more discerning about who I would work with. And they needed to have some sort of foundation, like working with a therapist, a meditation practice, a level of self awareness
Mm.
that allows them to actually benefit from this work.
Yeah.
And that's when I started doing, that's when I started working with clients for longer term and really seeing the impact that I was having on them. And it's been one of the most rewarding and nourishing experiences to have, and that such a positive impact on somebody's life. And that's how I know that I'm on my path,
Mm.
is the feeling that I get after these sessions.
Yeah. I love that. I was just having a conversation with a friend of mine. We're working through a program right now that is having us really, really prioritize coming from the heart as the foundation of our businesses. And I think what's radical about this type of work is that one, it's shamed globally, but also it's radically misunderstood.
Mm-hmm.
And the experience and why, I'm asking these questions again, is because like I have my own experience and my own history, which is not yours. But I think what I've always heard with women, particularly that have maybe come from a background of erotic dancing to sex work to escorting, is that there is a thread that I'm aware of in my own experience, and I hear with others that there's healing that is possible. And that was why I was asking, like, where did it bring you to your knees and where was it hard? And I hear that you had experiences that were incredibly traumatic. I know that experience of saying yes when my body says no. And I love now that, if you come to some workshops around consent, you'll have an opportunity to practice those things, to know what it feels like in your body. But to actually be in a space, what I hear is that you are doing your best to survive. And unfortunately, we live in a world that capitalistic ways kind of set the tone for a lot of us and what we are willing to do with ourselves to try to make it, right? And there was an article I read recently that was saying, you know, if women didn't have to worry about money, would OnlyFans be a thing? And I had to really sit with
Interesting.
that. I had to really sit with that. At first, I was angry, like, fuck you. Cause like I get to do whatever I want to with my body. If I want to sell pictures of my feet online and make a living, like, who are you to judge? Right. And yet I sat with that question in my own body. Like, how many things have I done in my lifetime for money that I didn't want to? What do I still do today for money that I don't want to? And the beauty and the thread that I continuously hear in what you've shared about your story so far is that innate knowing within yourself, right? Growing up being a lover girl, right? Whether you were an ugly duckling or you had blossomed, didn't matter. Like, that's always been who you are. And so now coming through to this space. So how long ago was it that you, cuz like I want to have timeline to understand. You said for the last like 4 or 5 years you've been really deep in like more of your embodiment practice. But how many years ago was it that you were doing the Mount Shasta? Oh, I think you said, was it 2019?
End of 2019.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you were still escorting at that point, but then was it massage, like doing massage and moving towards tantric massage that enabled you to move away from escorting?
Yeah. So I'll share something really interesting. So in that transition, it was a slow transition. I moved to Washington actually at the end of 2020, and that was when I really got more. It was when I moved to Washington that I started offering tantric massage. And something about move because I was born in Washington and I lived in Reno, Nevada for 15 years, and moving here, it was like my soul sighed in relief. And something shifted within me where the inner work really started to transform me. And so I knew I had this innate knowing, okay, this is my path. I don't want to escort anymore. And I'm surviving. How do I shift into this offering? And so I started offering it, and it slowly shifted from, 80% escort, 20% tantric massage. And then over like the course of maybe 4 or 5 months, it shifted to I was only seeing one escort client a month, and the rest were tantric massage. And within this, in that the end of that, every time I had an escort client scheduled, I would get a cold sore the day before, or like a yeast infection. Something my body would manifest these things where I would freak the fuck out. Like, oh my God, I have to cancel. And I slowly began to trust the universe, trust this redirection. And that deepening of trust continued over the next year, 2 years, where I noticed that the more I said no to the clients that weren't in alignment and just anchored it fully into trust that I was going to be provided for as long as I followed my intuition, stayed in my heart, and then these other clients that were fully in alignment continued to pour in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had mentioned earlier when we first started that, when you look back through your life, you can see that you were divinely held. And I, having a very different life than you, I can look back at my own life too and see the shit that I got into, and the drugs and the alcohol and the criminal activity, all that shit. And hey, I'm fucking 45 and still here, right? There's some divine shit that got me through all that stuff, right? And there's one of my favorite lines, Black Thought from The Roots, one of his solo albums. He has this line that says, "If you made it here by the grace of God, then do your job." right? And I
Ooh, snap, snap.
feel that deeply, right? Because when you have that opportunity where you can look back and you can be like, how the fuck did I make it this far in life? Like,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
some shit that should have took me out a long fucking time ago, right? And now here we are, and we're a little more aware than we were then, right? You call it consciousness, awareness, and light, whatever the fuck you want to call it, right? But we're a little more aware than we were then, and so because we now can recognize it, like, fuck, shit got sideways, and I'm still here, so I'm clearly here for something. So I better be doing some good shit, right? So
Mm-hmm.
what can I do to contribute back to the humanity that saved my life, right? Yeah, I went
Mm.
through a lot of shit with it, but I see opportunities for me to go through to share what I've gone through to help some other people around this world, and not to be like, hey, I made it, look at me, fucking hallelujah, right? But
Mm-mm.
no, like, hey, I get it. It's more of an I get it. It's hard. This shit is
Yeah.
intoxicating, right? So let's figure this out together, right? And it's like, you have those strong individuals where you don't know how you made it, but you did, and that's the example that's all we need sometimes, right?
Mm.
Yeah, and I think that's why I'm really feeling called to share this story. And I've had a lot of fear come up recently. I've felt the intuitive nudge to share this story of where I've come from because within community, I just feel like people see me as this radiant being of light that just shows up in her fullness, and they don't really know where I've been through some fucking shit to get here.
Yeah.
And there's been there's been so much fear in sharing that because of how deeply immersed I am in community now. And this feeling, what I realized was that what it is this persecution wound that I've been carrying from lifetimes of either my ancestors or myself being burned at the stake, being ostracized from community for embodying my fullness, for speaking my truth, for sharing this kind of very radical work.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel you.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know if I've mentioned it on the podcast or not, but my cousin dove deep into our ancestry, and I found out that I am the 12th and 13th great granddaughter and great niece to two of the witches that were persecuted in the Salem witch trials. And I can imagine there's probably thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of us, because it was so long ago
Mm-hmm.
and there's so many of us that have been born from that line. But what's interesting is when I talk to other people, not just us women, there are men too that have this innate connection to nature and the way of nature and how it lives through our body and the divinity, right? Like I was taught years ago that God stands for good, orderly direction, which really helped me because I also had to be mad at and leave the ideas of religion to reach towards spirituality and find that true connection within myself. But it's this idea that to be in our fullest power is now currently judged as arrogant, self-centered, pompous, like all of these negative terms. It's the same thing with wealth, right? Like I had to sit with the persecution wound, which is still rises for me, right? Especially when we talk about these particular subjects that are a huge part of our world. But when we talk about the idea of wanting to be financially wealthy, it like automatically brings all of this energy up within my system that I recognize are my own projected judgments, because the
Mm-hmm.
moment that I like see someone who totes or touts about being wealthy, I have judgments. And so it's these invitations through life's experiences to deepen our own healing around those wounds so that we can move through it with grace. And it's just wild because so many people start with the best of intentions and then they reach a certain platform, in society's eyes, and shit changes. And I don't know. So with where you are now, when you look back, you've mentioned so far massage school, the rose quartz, the oracle deck, plant medicine, finding tantra. What other methods or modalities have been really healing? What other elements in your life that you've experienced that have been really supportive to help pull you from this place where essentially you were selling your body to make ends meet because that's what you felt like you needed to do to survive, to being where you are now as a sovereign queen, where I hear you say no a lot and I fucking love it. I hear you putting your standards and expectations where you need them to be to meet you so that you're not compromising yourself or your nervous system. So, like, what are the things that have been really impactful for you to be able to get to the place that you are now?
Oh, the one thing that's coming up is feeling my fucking feelings.
Mm.
Emotional release. That's one thing that I feel really passionate about. Like the foundational work that I teach my clients is this is foundation.
Yeah.
And being with anger and grief and sadness in a healthy and constructive way, and being able to sit in the fucking shit.
Yeah.
To not, well, not I don't not sit in the shit, but to be consciously aware of the emotion, not create a story around it, and just be with it and move it.
Yeah.
I've noticed that the peaks and the valleys, the valleys used to be really long, and the peaks would be kind of a little bit shorter. And over time, the more I've been able to just be with and feel my feelings fully, the valleys have gotten much deeper,
Mm.
but a lot shorter. And the peaks have gotten much higher and a little bit longer,
Yeah.
actually.
Mm. Which I would say culturally, and it'd be interesting to hear Adam kind of chime in on this front. Well, I'll just stereotype here and say, like, culturally, men really struggle to be
Mm-hmm.
with their feelings. And so by doing the offerings, which we can also tap into, like what you're actually providing and how your sessions are structured now. Um, but I imagine that that's part of the tremendous shifts that are happening with your sessions and your clients now is
Yeah.
creating a container and helping support them in knowing what does it even mean? What does it even mean for a man to be in healthy anger and express that in a way that is healthy? What does it mean to be with the grief and the sadness and the confusion and the numb and the loss, right? Like there's so many more emotions than happy, mad, glad, or sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll just speak to that real quick. It's honestly it's really tough, because as much as men are told to feel their feels and to experience their emotions and do all this stuff, we still get made fun of constantly when we do. And it's merciless, right? And it's really fucking tough. So you got to have some thick skin to be out there and to be able to actually experience your emotions and actually get where you need to, right? To be a healthy person, because as much as society says, and some of society is very supportive. I know AWA has held me many times when I've cried and has encouraged that. So it's not a blanket statement, but the reason I say that there's this guy Chris Williamson that we both listen to, Modern
Mm-hmm.
Wisdom, and he talks about this research a lot. He talks about like the manosphere and shit like that, right? But there's something he spoke to recently that really was really interesting, and it was research that it's actually research that was conducted, and also just his own personal experiences with his friend groups. So he was speaking to the research that showed that as much as women say they want an emotionally sensitive man, an emotionally regulated man that can cry and that can feel his feels, behind the scenes, they're also saying, but make sure he's strong and he's tall and he can kick ass if I need him to, right? And so, like, that's really, really counter to like, hey, let's get out there and make sure that we can feel our feels. No, we actually don't want that. We do want that underneath, but on the top, we want somebody that's going to protect us, to keep us safe, to provide for us, and all this other shit, right? And so, as much as we're trying to break these stereotypes, we're still fully entrenched and ingrained in these stereotypes. And it's not to say like don't keep trying, because culturally it takes a while for these things to evolve past the understandings that we've set. But it just makes it a little bit harder, right? You know, because I mean, still, like, I don't listen to his music, but there's, Kanye West memes about him crying and acting like a bitch, and again, I don't agree with him as a human being, but I still think he should explore his emotions and not be made fun of because he fucking wants to cry.
Right.
Right. Same with Michael Jordan. Same with like all these men, these sports athletes, these musicians that have shown emotions that people cheer and champion. But at the same time, they're like, look at this fucking pussy over here fucking crying. It's like,
Right.
all right, where's the,
What message are we trying to portray?
exactly. What is the actual message? Right.
Yeah, and I think, and for me, when you're speaking to this, I'm thinking of this integration of the dark and light, masculine and feminine, which feels very like fundamental to my practice, and the integration of those, because I've experienced that where I've dated a man, and I do hold this very safe divine mother energy that invites men to soften, to be vulnerable, which is instrumental in my work with men. And yeah, I felt that ick in dating men, of like feeling that softness and like, ooh, I don't know. I is that taking away from his strength
Right.
and his ability to be a provider? And I believe it's in that integration of these different aspects that help me to oscillate between the nurturing caretaker and shifting back into the erotic sensual being.
Right.
Yeah.
And same with men, it's the, yeah, can they hold both?
Right.
Yeah.
There's actually a really, so in speaking to this in just an observer, like, so me as an observer of this happening on the converse side within women. So I just watched this documentary it's actually a docuseries on Apple TV called Twisted Yoga. It's a 3-part series about a yoga cult, basically. And so, and it's so frustrating and infuriating, because it's completely opposite to the story that you're sharing with yourself, Shalise, right? So you have these folks that are feeling they need community, right? And so they find this yoga center, right? And they're all over the world, right? There's yoga center, and they start to go to these yoga centers, learn about their life, learn about yogic practices, learn about breath, learn about, exploring your bodies. And then there's this layer, as you get deeper into it, about tantric work and self-pleasure, embodiment, and all this stuff like that, right? And so the guys, the guys that run this facility, end up like separating the men and the women, right? And so the women get invited to these like villas and all this shit, and basically to explore their femininity, to explore their divinity, explore their tantric energies. And they're having these beautiful like Shakti Shiva practices where they move in unison with these masters, and they're finding these erotic energies and all this stuff, graduating through these levels, quote unquote levels, until they finally get to the point where they're fully embodied, fully within their tantric power, within their feminine rights and their sexual energies. And then they get convinced to do internet porn on OnlyFans for free. They're charging, but all the money's going to the master, right? And so you have this complete opposite where these people were looking for something to embody, to find their energies and to find their sexuality, and they do, and then it gets turned around into some bastardized way, right? So it's so fucking toxic, because everything that I was watching up until the point that they got them on OnlyFans, I'm like, I actually agree with all this. Like, you're very empowering. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop, because clearly it's a documentary for a reason, right? But everything leading up to that, I'm like, fuck, man, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, right?
Well, that's the thing that happens too, that I see in so many areas, is all these teachers, all these communities, all these programs, they are essentially offering tools. But what happens is, by human nature, there becomes an idolization of the community, an idolization of the teacher. And so then we find ourselves in these states that are actually intoxicated, right? Especially through arousal. Our brain chemistry is technically intoxicated. And then you're told to do something. In that moment, that's not that's not a full conscious space to be able to consent.
Right. Exactly.
And so this is where people become sheeple, and you're just going along with the thing because yes, it feels emphatically blissful to be included in a community of people that are on a similar path.
Right.
And so, a lot of times we will judge from the outside and be like, how the fuck? And I remember when we were talking about this, you were like, these women were intelligent, they were bright, they were, like they had all these qualities that you would think like, how do you get to the end of this and then all of a sudden find yourself doing porn for free on OnlyFans? Nobody thinks that that's ever going to happen to them.
Yeah.
But if you look at this from a psychoanalytical perspective, to me, it's very clear how those things happen. But going back to what Shalise was saying about the light and the dark, or the light and the shadow, and the integration of that within, we have it within ourselves, but it takes time to really know when one is appropriate and when one is not. And when Shalise was talking about feeling the ick, which I love that term, and it also is very sad because I know what it feels like in my body, and it's really hard to come back from. But when I see someone or have an experience where I feel the ick, that's also my work. Like it gives me something that I need to reflect on within myself as to like, what am I judging here?
Exactly.
But also, thank you. It's also, it reminds me of a time that I had this experience with my husband where, and you'll hear this from women a lot, I don't want to feel like I'm mothering my husband. Or, they'll say like, I have 4 children. I birthed 3 and the other's my husband. Right? I had this really, really stark moment where, Patrick, by the way, has given me permission to speak openly about our relationship, so I'm not blowing through any consent here. But he was having a very tender moment, and I was holding him, and he was feeling really tender and soft. And because we were intentional about this space, I tapped into the old version and the old story of me feeling responsible for him, which is the mother-child archetype. Right? It's also one that needs to be healed. We're not responsible for, we're responsible to. Thank you, Khalil Gibran, for those words. But I'm not responsible for my husband. I'm responsible to him because I've made a commitment. And just in that moment, I asked myself, or I sat with the question, the curiosity, what is my role as his wife that may look and feel similar to a mother? And how is that different? And it's me. I am what's different. I'm looking at him different. I'm choosing to be here as his partner, as his equal, not as someone who's saving him, but he has a part in that also. And this is where there's a lot of unspoken energy, because what I see happen often is structurally within our culture, what I see is that a lot of men have become emasculated, and it's not their fault. And when it becomes aware within them, it is their responsibility, right? And same for me as a woman. Like I just started thinking more about this with my youngest son. My daughter gets really mad at me she says I'm coddling him. And the other night I had to kind of like really honestly look at myself, and I was like, oh no, I'm coddling him. Because when I coddle him, what that message is telling him is that he's weak, which is emasculating.
Right.
So he's going to grow up being passive and afraid and not coming forward with his strength and his power because he doesn't want to harm women. He doesn't want to be too loud or be too scary or be too aggressive. But then that also turns into people pleasing. And so there's this huge wheel of behavior that we can see. And it's not just men, it's women too. Everybody's got their own conditioning that's happening. But in order to come out of that, in my viewpoint, is the first thing is we have to recognize it. That's the first step. And the second part is we have to take responsibility for it. And so going back to that initial frame of conversation, it's like men can cry. We want them to cry. And we need them to not look to us to save them. And vice versa. We as women can cry. And we need to not look to men to save us. And so as we continue to do our internal healing, and like going back to what Shalima said at the very beginning of like, I have this sacred union within me that I am whole and I don't need anyone else to come in here and save me. I want somebody to elevate me. I want someone to lead me. I want someone to be led by me when I want to lead, right? There's this reciprocity and exchange that can happen. And the other reality is when we do things that are against cultural norms and we get made fun of it, we still got to fucking show up and do it anyway, if we know that it's right for us. Because like I saw somebody the other day post a meme making fun of someone who recorded themselves crying and sharing it online. And I just responded, oh, hey, like waving my hand. Because I do. Like, I want my people, I want society to see I'm not always perfect. I fall apart. I have hard days. I'm not out here touting that life is always butterflies and rainbows and orgasms. You know, there are hard days. And for me, that is the most attractive relationship I can have to somebody who may lead me through something difficult in life. I don't want the person who acts like everything's always all good and doesn't share their wounding and their pain. But I also know there's a really popular dude. I'm not going to drop his name because I don't want to give energy to this person because there's other areas of their life that I don't agree with. But they showed a video of themselves crying when somebody close to them had passed away. And the whole thread was full of dudes making fun of him.
Yeah.
And so, like, I get that there's that pushback. I think that that's what we're being asked to really lean into. And I'm going to stop talking off the podium now.
Well, I think a lot of what I'm hearing is we can do similar types of work, right? It's our approach and our perspective.
Yeah.
Right. It's how we think about and how we feel about the work we're doing. Right. If I voluntarily mow the lawn rather than my dad making me mow the lawn, it lands very fucking different. Right.
Yeah.
You know, and so similar with what you're talking about, Shalise, you know, with, the escort work you were doing to tantric massage that you're doing, you know, black and white, there's a lot of like sexual energy with both of those practices. There's promiscuity, blah, 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 whatever it is. But it's also how you're approaching it, right? You chose to move into tantric work for a very positive reason to help people in this way. You're choosing that path, whereas escort service was like, well, fuck, I just got to make some money, right? You know, and it's like, well, I'm compromising. I'm saying no's or saying yes when I want to say no. Now you only say yes to the people you want to work with, right? It's a lot of, and this is like such an important message I think we all need to understand is like, it's our perspective. 90% of our life is how we view the life we're living. I mean, that goes from like Stanford studies on health, right? 70% of our health issues are created by ourselves and the way we think about ourselves. 70 fucking percent, right? Yeah. That's insane. Like from cancers to open wounds, right? I mean, yeah, cold sores, exactly, right? You know, so it's like we got to hear those messages our body are telling us, right? Your body's saying, hey, this isn't a path we want to do anymore because we're now thinking about it differently. And so until we can get our full energetic understanding wrapped around it, here's a cold sore.
Yeah.
Here's a yeast infection. Hey, we're going to make it very clear that you don't want to do this, right? Until you get caught up with it, the body's going to be like, hey, we're just going to throw you some shit. Right?
When the body says no.
Yeah, 100%, right? So yeah, now as you're moving into through this life and through this understanding of life, you know, you're still growing as a human being. You're still probably unpacking some traumas and still trying to find some new modalities to work with. So like, how is all this landing with you as you continue through life now, right?
Yeah, I love that you were speaking to the perspective because there was an epiphany that I had recently as my work continues to evolve, and it's like, oh wow, I'm offering some of these things that I'm offering, so many other people offer also. Maybe not so many other people, but a lot of other people offer too. How is this different? And the epiphany that I had was it's not what we're offering, it's the energy in which we show up and how we hold that container that puts our unique fingerprint into that offering, and that is what is going to magnetize the beings that we are meant to work with, that we have soul contracts to work with in this lifetime. Yeah.
Yeah, because when you show up as your authentic self, your authenticity draws other people to you because you're showing up the way you need to, the way that makes most sense to you. Like I tell yoga teachers that all the time when
Yeah.
we do teacher trainings. Like I might be the one teaching you to teach right now, but I'm not going to expect you to walk out here saying the things I say and acting like I act. You need to find this within yourself. You teach from your successes, your perceived failures, from your injuries, from all the things, the goals you're working on. You teach from all those places and you will find a following. You will find the people that need you in their life because you are coming from your heart. You're not trying to play a character anymore, right? You're not trying to like look at somebody and be like, "Oh, I can do that." No, you're looking inside and be like, "I need to do this."
This is not a cookie cutter service.
100%, right? And that's when that authenticity, that's when the real work happens, because not only are people finding you because they need you, but you're also finding them because you need them. Right? It's that constant reciprocity. I learn as much and am inspired as much by my clients as they learn from me, right? I need to see those clients move through their shit so I can understand that I can continue to move through my shit.
So I want to ask, walk us through, what does it look like for a client to come to you now? Like, what kind of offerings do you provide? Is there a common thread of conflict for the people that are coming to you? Like, what is your ideal soul client look like?
Hmm. This is something that I have been really pondering as my work has evolved. I There's been some big shifts taking place in the way that I show up. So I'll just to name to go back, I had an experience with ayahuasca last September that shook me to my fucking core. She stripped me of everything that I identified with: tantric massage, priestess. It stripped it all away, and I moved through a lot of fear again around, okay, if I'm not offering tantric massage, then how am I going to make a living? And I realized that this actually goes back lifetimes of being a prostitute, and the only way that I knew how to make money was to sell my body.
Yeah.
And I noticed this thread of that showing up in my tantric massage practice. And so ever since then, what she was really inviting me into was leaning into more of my medicine woman archetype. That there's so much more that I have to offer than just essentially my body, and giving, and this tantric massage where it's, yes, it's valuable, it's beautiful, and there's so much more, there's so many more foundational pieces that want to come through. And I was mainly working with men, and I think there was this healing that was taking place within me, in my work with men, healing my own inner masculine and my relationships with men throughout my life. And so what's really shifted is this desire to work with more women. I have done some major womb healing in I was in a Magdalene Rose Grail priestess training container from July to December of last year that I think really anchored me more, like the most deeply into my sovereignty. And so to my desire now is to share more with women and men of course. I've got a couple offerings, workshops, my first workshops that I've actually created myself next month. One of them is the sensual mother, a return to erotic innocence. So it's helping women come back to and integrate their sensuality and motherhood, that they can be both. They can be this sensual being and a mother. And then I have another one that I'll be hosting, which is tantric massage for couples.
Yay.
But within my one-on-one work, my ideal client is the one who, whether it's a man or a woman, who is maybe going through the process of therapy and meditation and finding that it's not getting them the results that they really want, and so bringing in this layer of somatic embodiment, um, and deeper connection to their heart, to their soul, to their body, tuning into the innate wisdom of the body and holding a container that makes that possible. And something that was really coming up for me when we were talking about or Adam, when you were speaking to this, I think it was the documentary around
Oh, twisted yoga.
the
Yep.
twisted yoga was, I'm really noticing this, and especially in the men that come to me, is this disconnection of the sex and the heart, where this, and what I found in my own experience, is the softening into power and being able to hold ourselves, like you were speaking to, Ewa, in the falling apart, is what really helps us to connect to the heart so that we can then step into our power rooted in love. And so those are the kind of clients that I'm desiring to magnetize, are the ones who are desiring to soften
Hmm.
into their power.
I mean, speaking from a man and the age that I am, 45, growing up through the 80s and 90s through the internet, I think when you said what you just said about men, what speaks to me is pornography. Growing up with pornography and thinking that I've got a performance to make, right? I've got to be the dominant one. I've got to call all the shots. I've got to, make this happen. I've got to make her come. I've got to come all over everything. And it's this whole like this dance of this figurative thing in your head, and you're like, fuck, man, like I can't live up to all this shit. Like my penis isn't that big, like I don't have a woman that looks like that, I can't even do that with my leg, like what the fuck is all this, right? And so like to what you're speaking to, Shalise, I think it's so important because men, again, speak to myself, I didn't realize I was living up to an unrealistic standard until I finally did, and that was in my late 30s. And I'd gone through 12 to almost 15 years of sexual life, with the complete misunderstanding of what it was. I thought it was just to fuck and to come, right, and then to like do stuff afterwards, right? But it's like,
Nap.
no, there was, yeah, right. But no, there's so much reciprocity, there's beauty, there's give, there's take, there's sex without orgasm, there's like all this different things that we can figure out once we understand more of the definition of how it lands with us, and not just like how we think we're supposed to perform to somebody else's standards. Right.
Yeah.
So I think that like just that level of work that you just spoke to at the very end, I think is so, so important for a lot of us.
Yeah, and what I'm noticing with most of my male clients is the shame that's being held in the body around not being able to perform, whether it's, being flaccid through the entire tantric massage, if that's something that, feels a.
Uh-oh.
Oh, hold on there, Shalise. We just lost you there. Hold on a sec.
It's your mic.
Did your mic die by chance?
Can't hear you.
Yeah, we're not hearing you at all. Uh-oh. All right.
Start talking about a flaccid penis and we lose our volume. Go figure. Good Lord. All right, hang on, sis. Is your mic plugged in?
Yeah, it just dropped out.
I was
Wait,
gonna
I just heard something.
yeah, plug and unplug.
Can you hear me now?
I got you.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
there we
got you.
go.
Okay, cool.
See?
Um,
Go back to what you were saying. So
okay.
whether or
Yeah,
not
it's felt really potent to help men to be with that shame and that conditioning around needing to be. Can you hear me?
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Needing to be fully erect in order to be a man, to perform, and helping them to rediscover this innate eroticism that flows throughout their body that's not just located in the penis, and the pleasure that can come from reconnecting to the body through a lens of self-love and not trying to outsource that from somebody else. And so redirecting that flow of attention and desire, because it's a one-way touch session. If we do any kind of body work, it's intuitive body work. It's their eyes are closed, they're not, the attention is not out, the attention is inward, and giving them the opportunity to be fully receptive and present to their own divinity, their own love and presence. And that's what's been most rewarding, I
Yeah.
think, within this work is helping men to rediscover that it's within them.
The one
And coming back to this, tantra to me is really bringing loving awareness to the whole human experience, whether that's shame, guilt, rage, joy, bliss, presence. It's all beautiful and perfect, and if we can love it all, that's where the deep healing comes from. And I've realized that some people need a soft, safe container to be held within that in order for them to realize, oh, I can hold this within myself too.
yes.
Wow.
Yeah, sometimes it's in I mean, so much of it is in feeling safe, right? Like so much of our healing is being able to reach a place within ourselves where safety begins to even just crack its door open, and it can be nervous system regulation. And that's where my experience in this type of work is touch has a great impact on somebody's ability to feel safe. And, people aren't going to be able to see you unless, we'll post it. I'm coming up with frames to be able to post for our releases of episodes. So they'll be able to see you and get a sense of you. But Shalima is like the most beautiful, open-hearted, soft landing space. Like if you ever just want to be held, first ask her permission, but get a hug from this woman. Because I think it was actually, no, it wasn't at the training where you and I met. It was at one before that. But there was a man in the group who had his first, we'll just say full body sensual massage. And he teared up afterwards and he said, that was the first time in my life that my cock has been touched without expectation of performing.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I never knew how healing that could be.
Mm.
And so removing, like what Adam was saying, like removing the pressure. Also, I just want to talk about how fucked up it ever was that massage was ever established without touching the entire body. Like the fact that we live in a society where like the like wild side of getting massage is if they rub your butt, but like forget the breasts and forget the genitals. Like, I'm sorry, but that is just cruel that we ever did that to the industry as a whole. And now, like, I know a ton of people who have been in the body work or the massage industry that want to be able to do this work, and they face the conditioning and the hurdles of giving themselves permission to do this without feeling like they're a prostitute. And there's something really, really different, like what, Shalise said. If we go to the place where physical touch is happening, it's one way, right? Your clients receive your touch. They're not touching your body. They're not getting erotic energy from your body, right? And that was something earlier. Adam said something about, tantric massage always having sexual energy. That's not always true. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's it's actually, well, depending on the practitioner. I can't speak for anybody else, but I'm very clear that I'm not running my erotic energy. And unless that's been discussed with the client and they're asking for that, and then I have to tap in and see if that's something I'm open to. So, yeah, I'd love for you to kind of speak on your boundaries and your limits and where you've come to sit with your structure today.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because the majority of my clients, after they see me for the first time, they are blown away afterwards. After the integration, they come out of it with deep gratitude, and they're like, that wasn't even sexual. Like it
Yeah.
was, it wasn't even sensual. It was it's this I think within my practice and the energy, right? And the way in which I hold the space, it's divine mother
Yeah.
energy. And it's that's how it really heals this split between divinity and sexuality, and brings them into this place of oneness,
Mm,
where they are not separate, they are one. It can be divine mother and sexual all in one.
mm,
um and for me, the it's kind of multi-layered with the boundaries. It's, I've been really healing this relationship to my beauty and my sexuality, and being this sexual object that's taken from,
mm.
that has been taken from for lifetimes, and kind of reclaiming that sovereignty and that power of, like, it almost feels kind of dominatrixy,
Mm-hmm.
of like, no, you can't look at me, like I'm touching you. But I think the ultimate intention for that is to allow them, whether man or woman, to fully deepen into receptivity.
Yeah.
Because so often men and women, there's this unspoken reciprocal exchange that needs to happen. So the giving is really only happening to get, or the receiving isn't fully being received because they know they need to give back.
Yeah.
And so the deepest healing that I've seen comes with not being able to look at me, not being able to touch me. Because a lot of times men, I've noticed, I've had to kind of reinstate my boundaries because they want to touch my legs and kind of caress my knees. And that's a boundary for me, because then you're they're getting pleasure from giving
Yeah.
rather than just fully receiving. And there is a level of healing that comes from just fully being in your feminine and fully receiving. Um,
That men often don't ever experience.
ever.
Well, I should say men and women, because women have
And
the
women.
same
Yeah.
experience where, like,
Mhm.
we automatically feel indebted the moment that we receive pleasure.
Yeah. So that's the layer, or I think there are providers who do offer more two-way reciprocal touch and exchange. And I think that's so beautiful and so needed.
Yeah.
And this is the lane that feels like is part of my dharma, and the way that I can show up is allowing these men to, and women, I've had some really beautifully healing sessions with women, especially within our society. And it's women receiving sensual erotic touch from women,
Mm-hmm.
and just the kind of cultural conditions, I don't know, societal conditioning around that. And to be able to receive that is deeply healing. And I remember the first time I received that, I had this remembrance of women doing this, thousands of years ago back in the temples. And that was just the norm. That is how we rejuvenated and nourished each other, was by giving and receiving this
Yeah.
kind of touch.
There's a great book by Aldous Huxley called The Island. I think it's one of his last books he wrote before he passed. and it's one of my favorite books. But it's basically about this island community that has kind of chosen to not be touched by modern world. There's not like factories on this island. They have their own schooling system. They have their own ways of raising kids. A lot of their the way they raise the kids is at a certain age, around 14, they start sitting with medicine, right? So they start sitting with ayahuasca. They call it moksha medicine. And they also, at the age of 16, I think it is, they start going to sexual temples and to start exploring their bodies in sexual ways within themselves, within others, same sex, different sex, But and it's cultural, right? And so, clearly the Western world moves in and they're like, hey, you're doing wrong things to kids here and they shouldn't be taking these medicines and learning about sexualities and all this stuff. But to your
Because
point,
at 18, you're a grown up.
well, I mean, exactly. And now we
So
have quote unquote sound science. I just read this article 2 days ago that says that your prefrontal cortex is not fully developed till 32.
Jeez.
So we're now calling these kids adults when we thought it was 25 that the prefrontal cortex finally developed, and we're still have that 7-year gap, and now
But
it's
we're
32,
evolving.
right? And so, like, how are we actually assigning adulthood to people, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just it's interesting, to have these different perspectives, to have these different lineages, to have these different ideas. But again, I think a lot of this comes back to what you were talking about. You were talking about internal knowledge. The word for that is gnosis, right? Our gnosis within the self. Like, we don't know why we know what we know, but we do it, right? We know what the way it feels with us. And the more that we can start to find practices, practitioners, whatever it is, to let us feel that gnosis, that smartness within our own bodies, we can move forward in a more healthy way. Right. And sometimes it does. This is my Jesse Jackson moment of the fucking day. The safer we feel, the deeper we can heal. Right. But we do need to feel that safety, whether it's the practitioner, the practice itself, the modality that we're working with, the container that's created. Like, if none of those things are safe, then we're just performative. Right. And we're not actually doing the work. But if we feel safe in a sense, we can start to get a little deeper in that healing opportunities, right? And then we start to create those relationships and we can get a little bit deeper and we start unpacking things we never thought we could approach. Right. But it takes time, it takes patience, it takes the right practitioners, it takes sometimes being charged by the wrong thing to feel the real strength of that medicine, to be like, oh, I actually do need that, even though I'm scared of it.
Yeah.
Right. And whether that's, receiving eroticism, to going and sitting with ayahuasca, or just sitting in a darkness retreat by yourself for 7 days with nothing to do but think about your thoughts.
Or sitting on your couch with a pen and paper.
Yep. It's just, finding a ways to be okay with being with yourself, right? To be on that journey with yourself. Yeah. So what's and I hate to ask what's next, right? Because I hate that we're human beings, not human doings. But it seems like you are evolving constantly. You're constantly like working on your practices. Seems like the perspective shift keeps moving for you. So what are you moving towards? How are you kind of continuing your evolution within your priestess self and that, the sexual energy that you're working towards?
Yeah, right now, what I'm feeling I'm being invited into is sharing this work on a broader, like a more collective spectrum rather than just one-on-one work. And so offering more workshops, which is a big edge that I've been leaning into, speaking to that persecution wound. I've been supporting other people's workshops for the last 2 years and haven't been leading my own. And I do feel that after offering tantric massage one-on-one to men, women, and couples for the last about 6 years, um, I it's time. It's time to start sharing that medicine. And so yeah, one-on-one or in person workshops. Like, I have that one coming up in April. Very first one that I've led on my own, and it feels really fucking edgy. But I'm leaning in and trusting that, again, I'm going to be divinely held, and that all the gnosis is going to come through in and the exact timing is it's supposed to. And then yeah, working with women, I have a 7-month container that I am creating for women called the Sovereign Queen, helping women to reclaim their sovereignty, their wholeness, remember their wholeness, and call back their power. So that's going to be coming up in May. that I'm really excited about. And we'll see. We'll see. It's yeah,
Hmm.
there's a lot of unknown, but I'm continuing to just listen and follow the intuitive threads, even when it feels really scary.
Yeah. So, one, I just want to say yay because I was able to sit in with your first kind of little workshop that you had put yourself out there a few months ago now, right? And I love, I think that even this recording, like, there's so much more to you that I would love to hear and see you sharing with the world. So, like, yes, please, with an exclamation point. If people want to learn more about you, check out your services, reach out, what is the best way for them to find you?
So they can find me through my website, Sacred Scarlet with two T's, rose.com.
Beautiful.
And then also through my Instagram, Shalima, Shali.ma with three A's.
Mm,
We'll link those in the description.
yeah, for sure. I'm so glad that we had you. I know that we had to reschedule a few times because of all the life's events that were happening. And this just
Divine
feels so
timing.
perfect, like with just having the equinox and just the timing of everything. And yeah, hearing more about your story and just hearing the wisdom, like all of the time that you've put into doing your own healing and what you've studied and how you've shared that with people and supported them on their journey. I just want to bow to you and say thank you. I love you so much.
Thanks, sis. Thanks for always seeing me and championing me. I love you so much too. And
Thank you for listening. Remember to like or subscribe to the podcast on whichever platform you're listening to. And if you found this episode helpful, please comment or share it with a friend. Check out the show notes for links to get in touch with myself, Awa, or our guest. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. This episode was recorded, edited, and produced by Adam Reel.